We now know the semi-final lineup. It will be France against Belgium on Tuesday. Croatia, England on Wednesday. Gab, you've been out there for the whole tournament. What struck you about it in particular? What have you enjoyed about it?
Well, obviously we see some tremendous games. We've seen some tight games. What I'm always reminded of every 4 years when the World Cup comes back is how different it is from the club game, which, you know, in the club game, there's such a concentration of resources and power and wealth with the big clubs. You kind of know what's going to happen. There's no real surprises. But in the World Cup, you know, it becomes almost childlike. Anything is possible, and that's why we see these fantastic upsets, and then that's why we see so many close games, which we tend not to see in the Premier League or La Liga or Serie A or the Champions League.
What have you enjoyed about it, Robert?
I've enjoyed. We sat here right at the beginning of the tournament. We said there's only 4 teams that can win it. We sort of said, well, maybe 6, and then we went, no, only 4 teams can win it. Only one of those teams is left. That's been the great thing about the tournament. Spain haven't done particularly well, but you know, Russia beat them on penalties. We saw Argentina not really perform at all. So I think it's been the surprise. Some of these other teams coming through and playing really well, and the quality of the games has been excellent. The tempo of the game. So many World Cups. After the initial group stages, it gets a bit cagey. The teams play defensive football. The game's played at a slower tempo. I don't think we've seen one game, apart from France-Denmark, that's been played at a slow tempo.
It's the first World Cup ever. It's one of the English stats boys that had this yesterday. First World Cup ever. It's not had Argentina, Brazil or Germany in the semi-final.
Which could be a bad thing, like with regards to entertainment-wise, in the sense that, you know...
Have you been watching this World Cup?
Exactly. No, but that's what I mean.
You're now trying to paint this in a negative light.
No, what I'm trying to do is say that occasionally, like for example, if you have an FA Cup where it's Portsmouth against Cardiff, it doesn't grab you as much as you'd love to see the underdogs winning, but this still does because the games have been so good.
And there's still some big nations left in.
Exactly.
I think one of the things is the scaremongering. Well, so far, the scaremongering that was going on before the World Cup about how troublesome it was going to be in Russia, all the things, the feedback coming back from supporters and journalists and commentators has been, the whole thing has, it's not only been great on the park, the stadiums have been great, and everybody, almost everybody's been truly remarkably looked after and welcome. And I think the whole thing has just been engaged and I had an energy about it. On top of that, the football's been absolutely brilliant, and we've got 2 great semi-finals to look forward to.
I think something you're seeing out of these semi-finalist teams, and you're hearing from the camps, is the team spirit within those sides. And you're seeing managers and players that are either taking a step down from their own egos to get what's best for the team, for the country, for everybody to get on these runs. And when you don't have, you know, the big superstars kind of still in the tournament, it's been focusing on the teams. And I think that's been refreshing, as opposed to, all right, what is this guy going to do today? And what's he doing to his hair? And what's he going to do? No, it's focused back on the team is what matters, and the country, and let's get everybody together and see if we can go on a great run.
People for doing things for their hair in the World Cup.
Sorry? There's so many avenues we could go. Kesey talking about hair.
I don't think you two are in a position to be throwing any mud over here, to be quite honest.
You talk about how it's been more about the team, maybe this World Cup, than others, and it's interesting, that's very much the rhetoric coming out of the England camp, isn't it? And obviously they broke that hoodoo of winning a World Cup penalty shootout for the first time. What's interesting is everything's coming in.
Somebody said on television the other day, I heard them say they've broken their voodoo.
Oh, broken the voodoo? No, that's all right, we can do that, I'm sure.
Little faux pas.
But you look at this, and there seems to be more preparation. That's certainly the stories in the last couple of days.
The Maccas lot were unprepared, is that what you're trying
when
to say?
It comes to penalty shootouts, they're training after, they're tired to take them, they've had psychologists come in. Is this nonsense?
Yeah, I think it is nonsense, I do. I do. I think everybody knows what to do, but I know past managers have said you cannot replicate that moment where you're walking from, you know, A to take the penalty spot from the halfway line with these you cannot replicate that in the training sessions. Do you think Luka Modric, you know, has taken the last couple of penalties in the training ground? He's probably smashed them in the top corner all the time. But once the pressure builds, you cannot practice that. You can, of course, you can have Pickford there and just hitting shots left, right and centre at them all day long on the training ground.
I think you have to, as a coach, you have to make the effort.
To make the effort
to do it and do the right things. But I'm not sure it has that much effect. There's still a lot. Like, remember, England were only a penalty away from almost going out when the hit the crossbar. The Colombian hits the crossbar when Jordan Henderson already missed. And if he scores that, everything would go Colombia's way.
And the 5 penalty takers, you cannot guarantee that they're going to be on the field at the end of the game. So
Right.
it has to be constantly moving. You know, Vardy's taking the 5th penalty. Oh, he's got a groin strain. Eric Dyer's suddenly taking it. And before that, it would have been somebody else. Had people not left the field and got substituted through injuries. So you can't...
You might have been down to take a penalty and you've had a bad game.
Yeah.
Right.
So your confidence is all over the place.
Yeah.
Or you're carrying a little injury. I suppose from a goalie perspective, it's maybe more prevalent because you could study maybe where...
Would you do that,
And I
Kesey?
think there's no question that you get to the point where you and your goalkeeping coach are going through tape.
Right.
And it's okay, he prefers to go this way, let's go that way. And then like anything, it's about narrowing the percentages. And if I know that I'm coming up against Luka Modric and I've gone against his last, and I've looked at his last 10 penalties, and I know that 7 he likes to kind of go in this general direction, and then I'm going to narrow those odds, and I'm going to try to go for that, because under pressure, 9 times out of 10, you're going to try to go to the side that you're most comfortable with. And if I know that and he misses it a little, that's all I need.
Let's just remind you how things stand according to the bookmakers. France favourites to go on and win the World Cup at 2-1. It's tight though, isn't it? Who will go to the final? Croatia?
Croatia. Si, senor.
You pressed it twice then. Try again.
Croatia. I'm going to have France.
France, Croatia.
Croatia.
And then who will win it all?
France.
Now, the reason we showed you that is because that bracket started at the round of 16.
Yeah.
You got it straight down, perfect.
I hope I'm wrong. No,
You got everything right.
Yeah, but I'm
He mentioned that yesterday, actually.
Yeah, you
I
did.
only
Several
on
times.
the, no, excuse me, only on the one game I mentioned. You mentioned the whole bracket, not me. I don't
Croatia,
like-
England.
I don't like to blow my own trumpet.
Okay.
Yeah, but I did say yesterday that I hope I'm wrong, and I think England now, if I had to choose it again, I'd choose England, because I think the way the 2 games went the other day and the way Croatia finished out on their feet, looking as if they've got numerous injuries, and I thought the front 3, or the people who played up front, were quite toothless, really. So I'd pick England if I was to do it again today.
Gareth Southgate said after the Colombia game, he was quoted, said, the dressing room's like a scene from MASH.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly how Croatia
was,
looked at the end of that Russia game. And they've had 220 minutes straight off back-to-back after the Denmark knockout game as well. I think England, you know, without taking anything for granted, look in great shape.
Yes, yeah,
I mean, I really do. I think they look fresher. The game will be more open for them than all the games they've played so far. And I think we could see England's best performance yet. I think they're going to get to the final.
Do you agree, Kesey?
I agree with everything. When looking at Croatia, it really looked like 4 or 5 guys were barely going to finish the match. I mean, even if you count Subasic in that group, that you don't even know if their goalkeeper, what his state is. And the only question mark for England is I don't know how the depth of that squad is if they do have to make changes. I think their starting 11 looks fantastic, and a couple guys coming off the bench. But if they do have some injuries that we don't know about, that only the squad knows, and maybe a couple guys can't go, I think it could be trouble for England.
Robert, you're ill all week. Mac is going tomorrow, or today is your last day. So I just want to ask you with regards to nerves. And this is a young group of players who've never had this sort of experience before, a World Cup semi-final. How do you deal with that?
I think the fact that they've had their first World Cup quarter-final, dealt with it really easy.
Yeah.
They know the nations behind them. They've got to the semi-finals, which, you know, of course, England hasn't done in a long time. The winners already. They'll come home as heroes regardless of the result tomorrow. So I don't think it'll be a problem. I really don't. You know, you've got Jordan Henderson, who's just played in the Champions League final.
Yeah.
You've got, you know, players who've played at the highest level. I don't think it matters one jot, to be honest. They should be excited. They should be nervous because it's normal. They should have butterflies in the stomach. But they should be full of confidence after the Swedish performance.
So you don't buy into Tony Adams' comment that because it's all the Spurs players that have never
been winners.
They've never been winners. So
Do you listen to anything that Tony Adams says?
I try not to.
Yeah, exactly.
Macca brings up a good point. Whatever happens now, unless they lose like 7-0, they'll go back as heroes.
Yeah.
How do you play on that from a coaching perspective to help your players going into this?
I don't think he has to do anything different, Southgate, to what he's already done. I think the players are confident, they know the system they're going to play. I think he'll play with exactly the same team. I'm not sure he's going to make any changes whatsoever. I think they're getting better and better. They've got the momentum. They'll look at Croatia and look at the injuries and all the tiredness they've had in the last couple of games. I think he'll also be quite pleased with the way Rebic and Perisic have always chased the opposition's wing-backs back.
There you go.
And there, England will play with wing-backs. Perisic will go deep, so will Rebic, and England should dominate.
Meanwhile, when it comes to quality, you'd expect more from their first semi-final, France against Belgium. France slight favourites. Should be a great game.
Should be a brilliant game. Yeah, two teams with attackers galore and real quality in their attack, and that's the game I'm most looking forward to as a spectacle. You know, the England game, you worry about the England players because you know a lot of them personally, but I'm really looking forward to watching the France-Belgium game.
Is it a case whoever wins that game wins the World Cup?
I think that whoever wins that game will be favourites for the World Cup. I don't necessarily think they'll win it, but they'll certainly be favourites this side of the group.
Who wins that game?
France.
And then they win the World Cup?
Yep.
I was sitting earlier looking at it, and I thought, do you know something? I think Belgium are going to win this. And then I went on our ESPN FC predictor, and I picked France about 10 seconds later. I think it's that close.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is when you look at the players. But my gut feeling is the French will just have a little bit too much.
I'd like Belgium to do well for Roberto Martinez because, of course, he's been a colleague of ours for a number of years, hasn't he, at World Cups and stuff. And I know him because of the Everton connection and things like that. So I'd like him to do really well.
So keep a close eye on Thierry Henry on the bench of Belgium.
Good point, Kesey.
Yeah. And how can he not jump up and down if Belgium score and then go, oh no, I just knocked my
He's got to think of himself. The next manager's job, if I'm the assistant to the World Cup winning side, I've got a great job.
It's brilliant, but talk
Belgium
about
paying his wages,
conflicting emotions, though.
Yeah.
None of this country nonsense. They're paying his salary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He's got that big beard so he can hide.
He's like, what?
He's got that big beard, isn't he? That's what he's hiding behind.
Championship beard.
Hey, is that what it is?
That's what it is.
Right then, everyone, thank you very much. Macca, have a safe trip back to England. Macca's going home. There you go. Till tomorrow. Goodbye.